Hello, and thanks for tuning in to another ScreenSense video. In this video, we'll be showing you how to reel it in. That is, how to remove apps from your child's iPhone. So the scenario we're presenting is that you have a child who's installed some number of apps and you've decided it's time to scale it back so that they have fewer distractions on their phone. In this video, we're going to show you how to see what apps are on the phone and then determine which ones you want to remove. We'll just demonstrate how to remove those and prevent them from being reinstalled. So let's get started. This process requires you to have direct access to your child's iPhone. So first, unlock the iPhone and let's see what apps are on there. We'll take a tour of the phone and look at all of the apps. Here we see these are the kind of standard apps that you'd expect are on most iPhones. And we also, on the next page, we have Team Snap, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We also have some games. We have some music and audiobook apps. And then if we look again on the next page, we have utilities. We have some communication tools, some photos and videos, and just a lot of the things that come default on the iPhone. And so that gives us an idea of what we have. And for this example, what we're going to do is to remove these social media apps, and we're going to remove the games and a few other apps that we think are taking too much of our child's attention. And I'll also show you how to remove the App Store in the settings in case you want to prevent these apps from being reinstalled. But for now, let's get started by removing some apps. So we'll start with Instagram. What you need to do is press and hold with your finger on the Instagram icon. You'll see this menu, select Remove App, and from here you want to select Delete App. After that, you'll get a confirmation that just confirms, did you really want to delete this? And so you select Delete again, and this will remove Instagram from the phone. We're going to repeat that process a few times. So for Snapchat, press and hold on Snapchat, choose Remove App, and then Delete App, and then choose Delete, and that removes Snapchat. So we'll do this for each app that we want to remove. Looking at games, we're going to remove Roblox. This is a good one to remove. It has been problematic for a lot of families. And Clash of Clans next. Let's remove that. A lot of kids get stuck playing these games for hours when what they're supposed to be doing is homework. Next, we'll remove Brawl Stars. So go through the same process, and then when we're done with that, we'll go on and we'll start with YouTube. YouTube might be the most important one to remove because it can be so problematic, especially with YouTube Shorts. We're going to look at the music apps. I think they only need one music app on their phone, so we'll leave Spotify and remove music, although you could do the opposite. You can remove Spotify and leave Apple Music or some other music app that your child uses. In this example, we're going to leave TikTok for now, and we're going to add a time limit to it just to demonstrate. Maybe you want to leave your kid with an app or two and limit the time they spend on it. So I'll demonstrate how to do that in a little while. So now we're just going to look around and make sure we didn't forget anything that we want to remove. And oh yeah, we're going to look at the videos. I'm going to remove Apple TV because really, is it ever necessary for a child to watch TV on their phone? So we're removing Apple TV. And Safari is another thing I want to consider at the bottom. I actually can't remove it in the same way that I removed the other apps, so I'll show you how to remove it in the settings a little later in the video. For now, we're going to open settings and take a look at some of the settings we can change to help rein it in for this child. Start by clicking on Screen Time, scroll down to Content and Privacy Restrictions, and the first step is to flip this switch at the top of the page, which turns on Content and Privacy Restrictions. It will require you to enter your Screen Time passcode, and if you don't know what that is, check the description of our video to get a link for how to set up parental controls. From here, you'll have a lot of different options for how you influence what sort of content your child has access to and how they can share and manage that content on the phone. Now, because this video is specifically about removing apps, I'm going to show you how to remove the App Store if you choose to for your child. So what you do if you're going to do that is you first choose iTunes and App Store purchases. And then from there, you select installing apps. Here, if you choose the Don't Allow option, what will happen is it will remove the App Store from the phone, which means the child cannot install apps on their own anymore. And some of you may be wondering, why would I suggest removing the App Store? The reason is because if you're finding that the phone is becoming a problem with how much your kid is using it, and you've identified certain apps are the problem, and then you've removed those apps, like for example, maybe it's Roblox or YouTube, you've removed those apps from the phone, the child, if they have the access to the App Store, can just reinstall the app without even asking permission because you've already granted them access at some point in the past, and that access can't ever be taken away. Apple doesn't allow you to do that. And so they have access to re-download as long as they have access to the App Store on their phone. So removing the App Store allows you to control that the child doesn't have the ability to go and reinstall the app when you're not paying attention. Another thing to note is that if the child does need to install an app while the App Store is not enabled on their phone, they're going to have to come and ask you, and you'll have to sit and flip that switch again to allow installing apps. And after that, the App Store will show up. You can sit with them as they install it, whichever app you agreed on. And then you'll have to go back to set this setting back to don't allow and remove the App Store from their phone again. It's sort of a complete loop that you need to close in order to make sure that the App Store doesn't remain on the phone after you're done with it. Okay, so moving on from installing apps, we'll quickly look at in-app purchases, and here I'm going to select Don't Allow just because I'm dialing it back for this child, but you can choose what's right for you and your family. For require password, I always require a password. I think it's a good security measure in general and good to teach our kids. Okay, going back, we're going to take a look at Store, Web, Siri, and Game Control content. And here you can see there are a number of settings that you can change. For apps, you can select age-appropriate apps for your kid, although this isn't totally relevant if you've removed the App Store. Now, let's take a look at web content, because in my opinion, this is the most important setting. When you set limit adult websites on this page, and you absolutely should, the iPhone does an automatic filtering of websites to limit the child exposure to adult content in the browser. Apple has its own automatic filtering that it does. You can choose here also to either always allow certain websites or never allow certain websites. So, for example, if you see your child is accessing, again, Roblox in the browser, you can just add roblox.com onto the never allow list, and it'll be blocked in the browser as well as them not having access to the app. Another thing to note is that if your child uses Safari and this setting is set, the limit adult websites, they will not be able to browse privately, and private browsing, or incognito as it is called on Chrome, basically allows them to browse without saving cookies or history, so there's no trace of what they did and there's no way for you to find out. So our recommendation is to use Safari and always have limit adult websites set for your child. Okay, moving on from web content, I want to take a moment to talk about these different settings. There's a lot of choices here for how you manage content for your kids. You can turn off a lot of these. So movies, TV shows, music videos, you can say don't allow for all of those. You can choose what level of content to expose your child to for books, explicit or low, or what age of apps you think they should have access to when they use the App Store. And for the rest of these, you should go in and modify as you see fit for your child and what you want them to see, what kind of content they should be exposed to. And even if you set some limits here and they can't access something they want, it presents an opportunity to have a conversation with them about what they're doing and why, and then you can talk to them and make an informed choice and have the dialogue around it, because that's really powerful when it comes to navigating these devices. Okay, so we're going to level up again. And here we're going to take a look at allowed apps and features. And this is the place where you can disable the browser Safari if you want to. I'll take a moment to point out that these apps that are listed on this page are specifically the apps that come installed by default on the iPhone. So some of them can only be removed on this settings page, and so you can't remove them the way we did with the other ones earlier. Safari's on this list and it's turned on, but we're going to turn it off by flipping this switch so it's no longer green. Turning it off removes the browser from the phone. If you do this and remove the App Store also and make sure no other browser is on the phone, you're removing the web browser entirely from the phone. And so this closes the door to a major source of endless distraction on the phone. This could be a really effective way to help change some use patterns in your child on the phone. I'm also going to remove the iTunes Store because maybe we don't need our child to be scrolling through media. And now you can choose to remove any of the other apps that you see here. If you just flip the switch, that app will no longer be available. So if there are more listed that are causing problems for you, just turn them off. You can always turn them back on at a later date. Give it a try without them. It's empowering to know that you can do that. Okay, so we're going to go up a level again. And I'm just going to note that there's a lot of settings around privacy that you can change, and you might want to read up on those a little bit. But it allows you to manage what your child is allowed to do with their data, how to share it, depending on what settings you choose here. And then there's this little allow changes to passcode and Face ID. I wanted to call this one out specifically because if you have your child's passcode right now and you want to make sure that that doesn't change, you can set this to don't allow, and that way you will be able to manage their passcode for them and they won't be able to change it without you knowing. So now we're going to go up a level and we're going to take a look at the always allowed category. These are the apps that the child will always have access to even during downtime. In this example, phone messages, FaceTime, and Maps will always be available to the child, even when the phone is in downtime. All of the other apps below will not be accessible when it's downtime, but you can change that if you want to. You can put some of these apps in the always allowed category, or you can remove everything but phone from always allowed. So modify this list to be exactly what you're hoping your child will have access to when their phone is in downtime. And I'll also show you how to set up downtime. Okay, so select downtime. And then you'll have to enter your screen time passcode again if prompted. And then flip the switch that says scheduled to green, and this will turn on the downtime feature. Now, true Apple fashion, they have two meanings for downtime. There's scheduling downtime, which sets a schedule for when the phone is in downtime mode. And then there's the actual downtime mode, which is a window of time where your child does not have access to most of the apps on the phone, aside from those ones that we defined in the always allowed category. So you'll want to decide, do you want to schedule downtime the same time every day, or do you want to customize it? Maybe you want to make it different days for weekdays than on the weekend. Right now, I'm just going to do a general downtime setting, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And what this does is it shuts down all of the apps on the phone, aside from the ones that we listed in the always allowed category previously. It shuts down all of those apps, and they're not available at all during the downtime window. And a really important thing to note is that you have to flip this switch at the bottom that says block at downtime. If you don't have that switch flipped to green, then the child can just access the apps after downtime is on by simply selecting an option to ignore downtime. They can continue using their phone. So make sure that switch is flipped. Then we're going to go out. We're going to go back into downtime just to make sure it's really set, because Apple can be buggy. Sometimes you have to flip that scheduled switch again. So now I'm convinced it's all set. We're going to move on. The final setting I'm going to show you is an app limit by adding an app limit for TikTok. Select app limits and then choose add limit. Enter your passcode again, and then you need to search for the app that you're interested in. In this case, I'll search for TikTok, and then I'll select it. Click add, then click next. Choose a time limit. And we recommend 20 minutes max for a daily limit for social media. A limit of 20 minutes or less on social media has been demonstrated as having a less severe effect on mental health of not only kids, but also adults. So we recommend 20 minutes as an upper limit, especially for kids with developing brains, so that they don't get overexposed to social media. And I'll also just say that in general, Screen Sense, we recommend not to expose a child to social media before the age of 16. But I wanted to show this example so that you know how to limit an app should you need to. And once again, we need to make sure to flip that switch at the bottom called block at end of limit to make sure that the child can't bypass the limit when the prompt comes up and they've hit their limit. So make sure that switch is flipped and then press add. Now, if you want to add another, click add limit. Select another app or category and set it up just like we did for TikTok, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to go back to the main phone screen and take a look around to see how we did. So take a moment when you're done and look around and make sure that whatever's left on the phone is what you want. Remember, you can remove more apps if you need to, as I showed you at the beginning. And then if you scroll all the way to the right, you're going to get a view of all of the apps in the library. And you can click the app library thing at the top, and you'll see a list of all of the apps that are installed and available on the phone. So if there's anything in this list that you don't want, just go ahead and remove it here, as I showed you at the beginning of the video. And that about sums it up for this video for how to reel it in. I hope you feel more empowered to take charge over what's on your child's phone, how to remove apps, how to remove the App Store, and anything else that you need to kind of pull back your child's phone usage. If you have questions or comments, please leave them below and look out for more videos from us. Thank you.